Hi everyone, it is noon, so I'll go ahead and hand it off to Evelyn Nelson to get us started today.
Super, thank you, Christy. I just extend a warm welcome on this beautiful spring day. Thanks so much for everybody joining us. We're here for our Ready to Learn Echo. Just a reminder that it's part of our Telehealth Rocks programming. Telehealth Rocks is a federally funded program that focuses on school-based behavioral health. We do this also with work on social determinants, supporting school-based services and telementoring, just like the one you're joining today. We're glad you're here for the Ready to Learn focused on building resilient kids and classrooms. I'll just share a few house cleaning reminders. This session's being recorded, and that helps us share it with you afterwards. Your microphones have been muted, but we'd love to hear from you. So please do unmute or use the chat throughout the session. Your completion certificates will be emailed after this session. Again, it looks like most of folks have already done this. It's helpful if you can type in your first and last name so we can make sure and get their certificate to you. And with that, I'm glad to hand it off to Dr. Melissa Maris.
Thanks, Evelyn. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to quickly thank Christy and Robert for fearlessly shepherding us all through this school year of ECHOs. My name is Melissa Maris, and Evelyn was also, of course, just chatting, and then we have Stephanie on the ECHO with us today, and also our coaching team. Just want to make this plug right up front that even though this is our last session of this ECHO series, we are not going anywhere. And so we hope that you will be in touch over the summer if we can be helpful, or through the rest of the school year. So even though this is kind of the end or the closing of a certain part of our work together, it doesn't have to be the last time that we see each other or talk to each other. We hope that you will reach out if we can be helpful, and you will hear this as a theme as we're going through our presentation today. If you can go to the next slide, Christy, please. So our hopes for today, we are hoping to check in about how the last month went, and continue to review brain health and wellness concepts, skills, and strategies. We really want to focus today on working together to create and commit to a wellness plan that can support you in the summer months, and really focusing on how we can support each other and how you can support yourself in that plan. And then also at the end, kind of like what we've been doing for the past ECHOs, talking about practical ways to adapt these strategies in the classroom. And again, just to echo what Evelyn was saying, thank you so much for being here. We know that this time of year in particular is, it can be very challenging for our school friends. And so we appreciate you being here, and look forward to hearing more from you during today's presentation. We can go to the next slide, Christy. These are our project disclosure statements. We have none. And in terms of mitigating potential bias, we're always looking to the research and science to guide what we're saying. If you ever have questions about kind of what we're looking to around best practice or kind of how we come up with this information, please reach out. We would love to talk to you, probably ad nauseum, about where we're looking and what we're learning. So that's a great reason to reach out to us if you have any questions. So after the session today, the slides and recording will be sent to you. We'll also be working on getting those certificates of attendance to you. You will be receiving a post survey, and we would really appreciate you filling out those surveys. I am proud to say that our team really does use those data to plan future sessions, to improve them. And so you all giving us feedback via those surveys is very, very helpful, and your input will be used. And that will be heading out to your inbox in kind of the middle of this session. So we'll give you a reminder right at the end of the presentation as well. And then resources. So before I hand this off to Steph, if you haven't already, we would invite you to join our Facebook group. You can click on that link or scan that QR code, and it's pretty easy. We have been posting regularly, so sharing fun facts, having our welcoming Wednesdays, trying to kind of foster community via that platform. Just a reminder that our one-on-one individual coaching is available through the summer. So if you've ever kind of found yourself, kind of thinking, oh, I wish I could just call someone and ask them about that, let us be that. Call us, reach out to us. We want to talk, we want to help this summer about any of these wellness, school mental health related pieces. We'd rather you ask the question and then us say, actually, that's not what we're here for, but can we help you find the right people who you can talk to for assistance there? We'd rather you ask those questions, and then we will be kind and supportive and helpful and as responsive as we can be. And also keep your eye out for emails with resources, links, and tips. And again, please reach out if you have any questions, concerns, ideas. We'd love to hear from you. And so with that, I think, yep, I'm going to hand it over to Steph.
Yay, my turn. Yeah. Again, it's like a fun and a sad time. Kind of the sad time of this is our last official meeting together, but we do hope that you continue to think of us and include us in any helping problem solve, troubleshoot, all those kind of things. We're definitely not going anywhere. It's just continuing the conversation in a different way for now. So today's kind of mind-body connection strategy is going to be gratitude plus paper folding. And I know some of you might be on the road or in an inopportune place for paper folding, so we'll definitely go over what we can do instead. But if you are able to follow along, please grab like a rectangular sheet of paper. You can use a square sheet of paper if you don't have a rectangle. A sticky note works too. Preferably if you can kind of tear one side so it's a rectangle. So easiest way to do it is with a rectangle, but squares work as well. I have my little sheet of paper right here. Yay, Melissa's got hers. And if you don't have paper, that is okay. We'll definitely share this as a video with you later too, in case you want to try it on your own time. If you don't have paper, then what we'll do is that we'll just kind of sit in our spot, feel the kind of pressure of how we're sitting or our feet on the ground, however you're sitting right now or laying down or kind of being in the space, and just kind of notice the pressure of your body against the earth and the earth pressing back. And as you kind of sit there, just feel more settled and grounded in this moment. And as you start to breathe in all that restful energy, and breathe out all the stresses of this morning. As you continue to sit here, just notice those opposing forces as you breathe in all that restful breath and breathe out all the stressors this morning. And if you have a sheet of paper, in the center of it, write one thing that you're thankful for in this moment. And if you don't have a piece of paper, then just think to yourself as you continue to breathe in and breathe out one thing that you're thankful for in this moment. It doesn't have to be big. It can be a small thing, like being thankful that you had coffee access. And as you continue to breathe in and breathe out, just hold that idea of one thing that you're thankful for in this moment in your mind's eye. And if you have the sheet of paper, go ahead and write that one thing in the center of the paper. And next slide, please. So as we continue to be in this moment, bringing our awareness to the paper in front of us or just to our breath, we're going to start with the rectangle this direction, with the top corner, and we're going to fold it over just like in the picture. And as we fold it over, we continue to notice our breath, breathing in and out, those opposing forces. And as you crease the page, just feel the force of your finger against the table and the table pressing back. And after you've made your crease, go ahead and open up your paper again. And as you continue to breathe in and breathe out, go ahead and move on to the next slide. we'll crease the other side. So bringing that top corner on the opposite side down towards the right. And as you fold, just focusing on your breath, breathing in and out, and feeling that crease as you press against the table. Just notice your finger and what it feels like on the table or on the book that you're using for a table. And just feel the force of the table pressing back. Next, we unfold the paper, right? So we're back to our rectangle. And as we continue to be in this moment, breathing in and out, we're going to grab these two sides. Next slide, please. And we're going to fold them down on themselves, creating a small triangle. And as we continue to breathe in and breathe out all those stressors of this morning, we're going to crease that triangle down so it sits flat on the table. And just notice as you press against the table to flatten things out. Is the paper easy to fold? Is it putting up a fight? Is it difficult to fold? Just feel, is the paper coarse? Is it smooth? Is the pressure against the table hard? Is it firm? And just notice all the sensory experiences of this moment. Next, as we continue to focus on our breath in and out, I want to take one piece of the triangle and fold it up, just like that center picture. And creasing it against the table. And if our mind tends to wander to all the things that we could be doing or other things that we still have yet to do this day, just redirect your attention back to the present moment in the paper folding or to your breath. Now we're going to take the other side of this triangle and flip it up, just like in the third picture. And just notice as you crease the paper, what this experience feels like for you. And when you're ready, we'll move on to the next slide, continuing to focus on our breath, breathing in and out. I'm going to take, just like the first picture, this one flap and fold it over. And as we fold it over, just notice your breath. And if your thoughts are wandering, any of the things that have yet to be done for the day, and just gently nudge those thoughts back to the present moment. And either the paper folding and or your relaxing breaths. Next, we're going to fold the other side over towards the center. And again, just notice what it feels like to crease the paper, the opposing forces of pressing down on the table pressing back towards you. And in this moment, we take a look at our piece of paper. We're going to find this center part, and we're going to fold it in half, just like the third image. So right at the bottom where those two triangles meet, we're folding this paper in half. And as you fold, just notice how the paper feels against the table, and those opposing forces pressing back at you. Next, we're going to take our paper and then fold the paper back, just like our fourth image. So we have forward and back. And just notice the opposing forces as you crease the paper. Or if there's no paper, just focusing on your breath and breathing in and out all the stressors of the day and feeling your body relax more into its seat. And I believe if you click Christy, the last image will show up. Yay. Okay, so in this moment, as you kind of rejoin the group and breathing those last breaths of energizing energy and breathing out those stressors. We have made a gratitude frog. In the center holds the one thing that you're thankful for in this moment. And in some cultures, the frog represents luck. And so you've now made a kind of a neat symbol of all that you've, kind of endured and gone through this year, containing that one piece of gratitude, the one thing that you're thankful for. So even though I know we're remote and it's hard to kind of, be physically, present with each other, I hope that if you're able to follow along, that you have a takeaway, a reminder of just all the neat things that you all bring to this community. All right, next slide, please. So our usual word cloud, asking you, how do you feel right now? I'm excited for the weekend too. Okay. We appreciate, I know you all are in different places right now. I appreciate your just ability to participate in the word cloud and just giving us your responses to how you're feeling right now. Able to breathe and quiet. Thank you, Janice and Sherry, for sharing that too. So for some people, just to kind of bring it back to why we do these activities, right? That sometimes you might notice like maybe like the mindful or mind-body connection strategy of visualization or progressive muscle relaxation, right? You just don't have patience for it, or maybe it's just not the right time to use that tool. So this is another way to kind of refit some of the strategies and tools that you have, just like, right, being able to kind of refocus your attention to breathing or even just pressing against the table, and how that can maybe sometimes make it feel more like an active mind-body connection strategy versus more of a passive sometimes. Okay, well, thanks for sharing all that. We're ready. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so today, we'll definitely touch on it, but you all have, definitely taught us different things, and we've hopefully shared a lot of different strategies that have been helpful. And so, yeah, I know I'm definitely guilty of this, where maybe January 1st, right, I think about joining a gym, making all these like New Year's resolutions, and then maybe like a month or two later, things don't really work out and I get kind of frustrated with myself. And so with this wellness plan, right, or just kind of, putting a boat and tying everything together today, our goal isn't to try and make this like a completely unrealistic reach, right, of strategies. We want to help, kind of take the tools that you have, right? Our goal is to hopefully help you refit some of the tools and maybe learn some additional strategies. And what's going to make you and make us just successful in general, and how can we, kind of continue the progress that we're making. It's going to be trying to identify some small piece of a routine or some small piece of something that maybe you learned here, and how can we carry that forward? So not the big New Year's resolution of like, I'm going to, do all these things all the time, but more of like, okay, like looking at my day or my week, what's something that is realistic that I can kind of tie in? Maybe it's going to be like a quick, like drawing activity as me time. Maybe it's going to be scheduling more of like just taking a couple of deep breaths at breakfast time. We want you to kind of have, be able to take a moment and kind of reflect on all the different things that you know how to do, maybe really enjoy doing, or maybe a new thing that you learned, and how can we try to fit it into a routine that you're already doing, just to kind of help maximize its use. Next slide, please. So I have a poll for you. So thinking about all the different wellness changes, all the different strategies that we talked about, if 1 is no improvement, 10 is the most improved, how much do you think implementing one of those changes is going to improve your life? Appreciate everyone. We have 84% of people participated. So I think that is awesome. I appreciate your realistic outlook, right? I think it's, I'm glad to hear that, I think we're all here for a reason. We all appreciate the mind-body connection strategies. We all, think that these are going to hopefully improve things. So, yeah, I just appreciate everyone's honesty and your answers with this too. So let's try to figure out ways that we can try to make these changes stick better throughout the rest of the school year, throughout summer, and how we can apply this to the classroom setting. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so thinking about a roadmap. I like to start things off with, so thinking about our day-to-day, right? We all have kind of like our daily routine that we do. We have our things that we like our non-negotiables, right? Things that have to fall into the week, job, grocery shopping, chores, right? All those things. And so this idea of a roadmap, checking in with yourself and going, am I going, where am I going? And am I actually going where I want to go? Are my actions lined up with what I value, right? We talked a lot about values and how we can, kind of help it feel like we're living a life worth living, so to say, right? By living in accordance with those values. Sometimes we run into trouble when we're doing things because we feel like it's more of like a have to versus being able to tie it to family or friendships or being genuine, some of these other values that can come up. And thinking about, in your roadmap, are there things I want to be doing more of or less of, right? So say if my value is self-care and family, kind of thinking about is there a mind-body connection strategy that might tie into both? One that might increase family time and one that might also highlight this, self-care strategy or this well-being strategy. And also taking into consideration too, with your roadmap, right? You can't be the superhero and can't do everything. Even though I know I wish I could, but thinking about okay, what are things that the have-tos, right, have to be my schedule versus things that I can delegate to other people or ask for help with. And asking for help is super duper hard. Next slide, please. And so the importance of having a roadmap, right? Kind of having checking with ourselves, asking ourselves the question am I heading in the direction I want to be heading? Am I doing all the things I want to be doing? Are there more things that I can try to incorporate or less things that I can try to delegate to someone else such that I am able to incorporate some strategies into my routine that might tap into those different values that are important to me? And so definitely something else that can kind of cause our roadmap to take a detour is decision fatigue. So you think about, right, maybe you just kind of are going through your day, right? Stressors kind of keep globbing on during the day. Then you get home and you're like, I did not have food ready. And just that realization and kind of moving through that moment can be super tiring, right? Because it's another decision that we have to make. So our entire day is full of decision making, and then we finally get home. It's super hard to be able to actively, sometimes critically think and plan ahead in those next moments. So another strategy can be too, right? Like with this building a routine, are there things that we can have set aside if it's going to be a good day or a bad day? Are there things that we can kind of already plan ahead and have go to, whether it be snacks on hand or whether it be, meal planning, other things with your kids, but having like these built-in routines for good days, bad days can help reduce our overall decision fatigue, or getting home from work and then trying to then figure out what to do next. Next slide, please. And so with that, right, how can we most effectively build this wellness plan, right? So you have your roadmap, kind of figure out what direction you want to be heading, help kind of reduce or create routines, right, for a good day, bad day, kind of figure out what a good day or bad day might look like. And then within your day, right, kind of focusing on SMART goals. And I know you all know what SMART goals are, so I definitely don't want to belabor that point. But just, I think it's so important sometimes just be able to check in with ourselves and go, hey, self, like, is this a realistic goal given my other commitments this week? Or if I know my kid has like a soccer game and a basketball game and all these different games going on, is this really the best week to start this new routine or do XYZ thing? And so SMART goals, I think, are great because they help us kind of reflect on just the realisticness, or how can we even measure progress, right, if we don't actually define kind of what the specific goal is. Next slide, please. And so with, Ready to Learn, we have tons of, each month we try to highlight kind of different themes of strategies, right? So you have, how can we make meaningful connections with others? That's kind of the purpose of this community, for us coming together to support each other. Like, how can we cultivate awareness kind of in ourselves and of the individuals we're working with? How can we commit to one's values, creating supportive environments, and overall, right, just with the biological basis of, right, stress and well-being, that stress can wreak havoc on our system. And so these are all strategies and ways that we can help reduce the overall impact of these things. And so, we've learned a lot of strategies. Next slide, please. But Melissa will go over in a second, but just thinking about, like, of all those strategies, noticing if there's one thing that really spoke to you or something that you're already doing and want to do more of, and think about, are there ways to kind of integrate that into our daily routine? But yeah, so, with the overall thing of trying to create this wellness plan, I think sometimes it can feel like a lot to try to create a wellness plan and try to think about, like, oh my gosh, how are all the ways I can do this? Or it can just be overwhelming in general. So more of thinking about, like, yes, we've learned lots of strategies together, and maybe you already have a strategy that you really enjoy. But thinking about, if this is something I really enjoy doing and I find that it helps me, right, kind of either recenter or kind of attack the day, or, feel grounded from a stressful day, how are there ways, like, throughout your week that you could try to increase this happening?
Stephanie, thank you for walking through those pieces. And again, just I and as you do, we talk a lot, of course, about SMART goals and setting goals and why that's so important. And it's still something that I remind myself at least once daily of how critical it is to set good goals. Because the pickle is that if you don't set good goals, then you're never going to reach them. And that's a bummer. And then you're not going to want to set more goals. So that piece of really being clear about goals and then what you're going to do to reach the goals, it gives you something to do with the goal. And so just appreciate you doing that and then walking through the different components of the Ready to Learn piece. So as Stephanie was maybe starting to share, we've learned a lot of strategies together. We've talked through a lot of them. And these are kind of some of the highlights here, but maybe go ahead and think about sort of the last 7 sessions, the different strategies we've discussed. If there are things here that you're like, oh, that's right, we did that thing back in session 3. Or, oh yeah, that's what we called that. The soles of the feet, the stomp and roar. We've reviewed a lot of content, and any single one of those strategies can be effective on its own. Several of them can be put together and used. They can be adapted. You can use them for yourself or in the classroom or whatever context you're in. And I think what I really like about just looking at this entire list is even beyond just looking at each strategy and walking through it and trying to remember what the components are or trying to sort them into groups. I think this just helps remind me that we've talked about a lot of different strategies. And whenever I talk to schools and friends like you all and who are working and doing the good work in schools, folks always want more strategies and more resources. And we hear you. These are a lot of strategies, right? The trick is that you have to find strategies that are going to work for you. Strategies that you understand, that you know what they mean, check, right? And that you will actually use. Number 2, and that's it, right? So any one of these strategies is great. Doing more than one is fantastic. And so visualization, the grounding exercises that Steph has walked us through. Here's my frog. It actually worked, Steph. See, look. The rocks and sand. So I was talking through how we identify what our values really are and being really clear and explicit about that and aligning the work that we're doing or our wellness goals with those values. The leaves on a stream, even saying those words out loud, I feel more relaxed, remembering Steph talking about and helping us go through that exercise. The different kinds of acronyms, so STOP skills, TIP skill, the colon diamond, focusing on what we can and cannot control. There's a lot that we cannot control. And if we are focusing all our effort on things that we can't control, also a bummer. So I think kind of big message is like, let's try to, work smarter, not harder, and don't set ourselves up for failure by, doing things that are probably never going to be effective. I'm never going to be able to control things that I can't ever. I can work hard. I can learn more strategies, still not going to work. And so I really identifying things that I can control. And again, as we've kind of been talking through, all of these pieces or all these strategies being things that we can do for ourselves to promote wellness and to take care of ourselves. It's things that we can share with other adults. So maybe our colleagues in the school context or in other spaces you're in with other adults. And then absolutely applying these with young people. So of any age. And I'm hopeful that we've kind of demonstrated with and across these different strategies that they can be adapted in all kinds of different contexts. It just takes a little bit of forethought and kind of like what Stephanie showed us, some courage to try things and to be okay trying things and being like, oh, that didn't work. Taking ourselves seriously, of course, but just seriously enough so that we can kind of move forward and look at behavior to change. So again, we would love, if you're looking at this list and there are big holes for you that maybe you don't, aren't sure what some of these strategies are, you don't remember them, you're not sure how they kind of link together. Those are all things we'd love to talk to you more about, even at that level of, hey, you put that slide up, I missed the point. Can we walk back through it? We would love to talk with you and kind of talk through what this might mean. If you've struggled to apply these in the context that you're in, give us a shout. We would love to talk through that and we will problem solve with you. We will problem solve as a team. We really just want this to be useful and for it to work. So definitely follow up with us and we'd love to talk more. If we can go to the next slide, Christy. So one of the things that we have talked about before, but just kind of wanted to highlight it again here, is this dual factor model of well-being. And I think that part of what was, really groundbreaking about kind of adding the second factor and making this not have just one factor, but two, was this idea that well-being is more complex than just one line where we're either okay or not okay, right? That it's multifaceted. And kind of this dual factor model of well-being really provides a more holistic understandings of mental health, stress, and well-being. So this idea that wellness and distress are not mutually exclusive. we can be well and distressed at the same time. And that is, you know, there's a lot of stress, again, things we can control, things that we can't control. And so the nice part about well-being is that becomes resiliency, that becomes a protective factor that we have no matter what is happening, and that we bring those tools to the table. And that's part of why taking a proactive stance with well-being is really, really helpful. Then you have tools in your toolbox when you need them, right? And so kind of thinking about that. So I really like the quadrant model here. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. This is also absolutely a tool that can be used, and maybe you all have used. There's some of these that have kind of different language at different reading levels for different folks, but just even so people can identify where they are. So maybe kind of a you know, checking in, being in the present moment, kind of which box would you put yourself in, right? And then is that the box you want to be in? Is that the box you have to be in? And like what it would look like to shift around, and thinking about what you can control and what you can't control in this space. We can go to the next slide, Christy. And the wellness plan. And so kind of as we've been talking about, being proactive with wellness is really critical. I think of this in schools when we talk about any kind of health promotion, mental health promotion, but also just kind of the basic foundations of kind of what we need to be okay as individuals, and what I would say schools do just by the function of being schools in terms of providing these foundational skills for young people. The time to learn is not when there's an expectation that you have mastery of the skill, right? The time to learn is when you have the capacity to learn the skill, which itself is really hard. And so we expect mastery at some point, hopefully with the right supports, but we can't expect the practice of well-being without kind of building up and creating that model and a good foundation. And so we really have to teach it. We have to learn it, just like any other kind of content that we do in schools. We don't, you know, have our young friends show up to kindergarten and expect them to sit and take the ACT. You know, that would be ridiculous. Same thing for well-being. We have to learn it, and that as adults, we have to do this too. You know, working with a lot of, in my work with secondary schools in particular, I, you know, regularly hear, well, they should have learned that already. They already should have gotten that, you know, in terms of some frustration in terms of skills in the academic arena or in any other arena. That's something we would expect a 10th grader could do. And so here's the thing, as grownups, wherever we are on this journey, that's where we are. And so have you learned it? I don't know. Can you learn it? Yes. And wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. So let's rock and roll. And so kind of that acceptance, and then moving forward. We are just now in our society really, really starting to embrace this idea of mental health, of wellness, of, you know, mental health literacy. And so if we have gaps, it makes sense why. And so let's work on building those capacities for among all of us, adults and young people included. So Christy, if we can go to the next slide. So wellness plan recommendations, and you're going to see some consistency here across this slide and then the next slide, which has kind of some applications for the classroom. But really, this is more geared towards you all as the grown-ups in your school communities. And this is kind of what we would recommend in terms of mapping out your wellness plan. So first is kind of looking at the strategies, looking at that list, or thinking about the strategies that you remember, and thinking about what you found most helpful. You're always going to be more successful if you try to start small and find success and go from there. A really well-written plan sounds great and is not useful if it is not possible. So start small and build. Celebrate small successes. I constantly tell my children, take the W, right? Like take the win and go, like take it and then build, right? We all need that as humans. We all need to feel that success and then feel like we can do something with it. And then looking at the strategies that you found most helpful, and then thinking about what do you want to do more of, thinking about roadmaps and SMART goals. one really critical part, and I think it's been a theme through our sessions with this series, is it's really important to tie actions to values. There are a lot of wellness strategies that just, if you look at the strategy itself without any other context, seems silly, right? So I now have a paper frog on my desk. That is silly. And so, but it's not silly actually if you have the broader context, right? And we can link it to the values and the values that we now all have talked through, and that clearly from your all's responses, you also endorse to some degree and believe in. So linking it to the value gives it staying power, and it also helps sustain when things get hard. Part of building your capacity for wellness is linking it to values so that you can really, so it has that stickiness, and it doesn't just become a random paper frog on your desk. This means something to me now. It has connection to a value, and that's really critical. Thinking about schedules and organization, right? So logistics and being practical. Saying that you're going to do something someday is not going to be helpful. It's not going to work. Saying that you're going to do one small thing 15 minutes from now and you have a break in your schedule and you're imagining yourself doing it, that's realistic. That is more likely to actually happen. Engage the plan, modify as needed, being compassionate, right? So when you try to do something and it doesn't work, forgiving yourself, forgiving, whatever it is around you that made it more challenging than what you had anticipated, and then keep going. And also really thinking about the interpersonal aspect of this. So as humans, we are inherently interpersonal beings. We have to have social connections, whether we want to or not, whether they seem like more work than they're worth. We have to have social connections. It's how we are built. And so we need support. We need people. We need our people who can help with this. And so kind of being very clear about who your supports are and who you can lean on when things get challenging. You can go to the next slide, Christy. So the classroom strategies, again, are very similar. So how you can take what we just talked in terms of things that you might be able to use for yourself, and then here shifting to talk about what the applications are in the classroom. This is, again, as we kind of started out with, a challenging and also wonderful time of the school year. Certainly April and absolutely after coming back from this next weekend, it will really start to clearly be, that time of the year where we're getting close to the end of the school year. And we're not quite close enough for it to be really close to the end of the school year, but we're getting right there. And so things start to accelerate, and this is a great time to start working with the young people in your lives to kind of translate things that they've learned in the last year and help them package them in a way that it's easier for them to carry it into the summer and then into the next year. This is when we are generalizing any of those, classroom specific or grade specific or content specific kinds of skills so that they can be applied elsewhere, and really thinking about the summer. And so some classroom strategies, kind of like what we did, thinking about all the strategies. This is your work ahead of time. So thinking about all the strategies you've used, things that we talked about or other things that you were already doing or that you've done in addition. And think about a few that seem to work best. Again, an exhaustive list is not going to be as successful as a few that you can focus on. Thinking about something that you do either in your individual work or with groups, some kind of activity you already use for other content. So if you are a school counselor, school social worker, school psychologist, you're already doing these kinds of things in a context and already working on these pieces. And certainly if you're in more of an academic school setting, then you're doing this with academic content. The trick is to use the same methods and the same strategies and the same structures that you would use with any of the content that you use and kind of work in the wellness pieces. So the idea of thinking about a way that you can get students together to talk about the strategies. Part of what you're trying to do here is help them, it's down in the third point of purpose, is to develop a common language for what to call the strategy, talking about the how of the strategy. So how do you do it? Figuring out the why of the strategy. So why does it work? Again, part of what we're trying to help everybody develop is a clear link of what are we talking about and how does it connect to our values or some other sort of anchor. Drop the anchor is a strategy that we talked about during our series. And then practicing the strategy and really reinforcing the value of the strategy, and then talking through how students can transport this into the next year. So if You have been making paper frogs with your class, right? Superb. You've been doing grounding activities and making paper frogs. But Melissa, Dr. Maris, I don't have paper in the summer because I'm outside. Okay, so let's talk through how we apply this strategy in another context. You're not allowed, I can't have paper out in my other classrooms. Okay, let's talk again about the point of the strategy and how we can translate it into different contexts so that it can be useful for young people. Again, the interpersonal function here also helps with brainstorming. It's easy to get really stuck and to not see any other ways to use things flexibly. That's part of the value of having other people involved, is that it just helps us in terms of all the brainstorming that we can come up with. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here with a couple of questions, and these are some other word clouds. And so this first one is, what is one strategy that you hope to add into your routine? So click the link and tell us one strategy that you hope to incorporate into your routine. Breathing. Absolutely. That was, I don't think it's supposed to be a secret like wishing on an eyelash, but that was the word that I wrote down in my paper frog, is breathing. That's what I'm grateful for, is breathing. Love that. Reframing. Absolutely. Isn't it amazing how if we look just at things from a different perspective or in a different way, it can change how the whole thing looks. I think I saw one, but movement. Absolutely. Movement is amazing, and the physical activity component of it, that really I think about sometimes, like, stress gets stuck in my elbow, right? And so like if I just move and then kind of break it up and then it can distribute, and kind of that idea that movement can be such a powerful tool. Heavy work pressing into the table. I love that. The grounding, and again, back to the breathing, the idea of, making the creases in the paper frog and like feeling the table push back against the finger, right? Checking in with our bodies, can wiggle our toes. Can you feel your socks on your feet, right? And so like we have all of these senses that we don't always engage as readily as we could. And so just checking in with that stuff can be really valuable. Questioning, control. I love these strategies. Any other strategies there that you all want to add before we go on to our next word cloud? Thank you all for popping in here for this. All right, Christy, let's pull up the next one. So as you're thinking about what you are hoping to incorporate into your routine, so something that you're hoping to do more of, we are hoping that you will help us by telling us how we can help you with those well-being strategies. And so this is another time to give us some feedback and give us that information. This is also a part of wellness planning, right? Is using your resources. And we are a resource. Part of making us useful and helping us be useful to you is making a plan for how you would reach out or when you would reach out to us. Maybe your question is, you keep saying that you can be so helpful. I don't get it. Can you help me understand how you can be helpful? Totally valid question. I ask people these kinds of questions all the time. You keep saying that you want to blank. I don't understand. Help me. Help me understand how this is useful in some context, and not in a mean way, just in a questioning way, right? Like one of the strategies that one of you all shared in terms of something you wanted to do more of. So how can we help? What can we do to help you practice wellness strategies? I love it. So instructions, the activities, ideas, remembering, so different kinds of reminders with that. The smiley face, love it. provide. So I'm hearing from these words, taking away us kind of our stance in terms of continuing to communicate that we can be proactive in continuing to offer information and ideas. I'm seeing a lot of very concrete asks here, which is super helpful. So resources, worksheet, ideas, and then absolutely help with interventions specific to students with severe behavioral needs. Yes, absolutely. So we, I think, and not we, I think, but I know that we are working on developing our plans for the summer and next year. And, you know, having more of a focus on our young friends who need, you know, a lot of support in a lot of different ways. This is absolutely something that we will continue to support you all and your school community in ways that we can to address. This is also a space where if you have questions about what does wellness look like for our friends who have severe behavioral health needs in the classroom. Wellness is also a thing for all of them, for all of us, right? It's a general universal kind of piece. And again, what we can control and what we can't control, wellness can be a big part of that. And we can always add wellness activities on to things, and it sometimes can help. So the follow-up pieces, the written component, the books, absolutely. This is really fantastic. The follow-up. So yes, thank you very much for this information. And again, we save all of these word clouds and go back and use them. And when you all hopefully complete the survey and give us feedback, we incorporate all of this information. I really love our approach to data use on this team, that we really are very purposeful about what we ask folks to give us in terms of feedback, and we make sure that we're asking for things we actually use, and we do, which is fantastic. So Christy, I think if we can go back over and pull up the presentation. Just drop the link for the survey in the chat, and it was sent out to you about 20 minutes ago. So we would really appreciate you completing that and filling it out.
Got it. Sorry to interrupt. They should have received it. I just received it by email. So go into your email and look for it, that you're registered with this and hopefully you'll provide us feedback so we can do even better in the future.
Amazing. Thank you, Robert. And thank you all as well for folks who are participating in the polls by putting things in the chat. I wasn't ignoring you. I just didn't see it. So give us feedback. We would love to get that. All of your surveys are anonymous if you fill them out with this link or the link that's in the chat. If we can go to the next slide, Christy. So our key takeaways. So we are at the end of our series, and this has been a long haul, right? And we know that your school year is not done yet. We appreciate you joining us and consistently joining with us. We've had really lovely turnout, even for this last session in April. And we've covered a lot of information. The take home right now is think about what was useful, what was meaningful, what seems to make sense that you're taking away from this. And that's a key part of putting this kind of information into action. A key takeaway for today was talking about practical ways that this can be put into place, and how we can work with other people, with young people, with other adults in our school community to support each other in this work. And discussing practical ways to adapt this for the classroom and other school contexts. So we hope that you are taking that away from today specifically, and then also kind of the overarching theme across our series this school year. So we can go to the next slide. So we have a few minutes left here, and we would love to field any questions that you have. If you have any pearls of wisdom to share, any successes, we would love to hear those as well. Also, we love hearing that later. I know sometimes I learn something and then sometimes it's months later that I actually do it. And I think, oh, I really should connect with that person and tell them it worked, or I should connect with them and give them some feedback about how it did not work. We love that. Tell it, send us pictures of your paper frogs. And I mean that literally and kind of more metaphorically. Let us know how it's working and what's going well and what we can help with. For sure. So looking here at the chat. Well, thank you all. You all are the rock stars. Oh, look, I didn't even do that on purpose, Evelyn. It just slipped right in there. Any thoughts, Steph, Evelyn? Thank you, Christina.
I would just point out, I hope you will do the survey. The reason why we had a year-long on resilience was the result of surveys from last year. We're going to do a summer series on trauma led by Melissa Maris that we'll be getting out to you guys soon. And that's because you guys told us that was your most important issue that you needed training and support on. So we absolutely look at what you say. We use it in future echoes, and we use it to understand what your training and areas of need are so that we can provide resources.
Thanks, Robert. Christy, can you pop up the very last slide? Just again, there is our contact information. And we do hope you'll be in touch moving forward as we can be helpful. And I think with that, barring no questions or objections, we want to say thank you really for hanging out with us this year. It's been really phenomenal, and we hope that you have learned half as much as we have, because we've learned a ton. But mostly thank you all for everything you do every day to help young people be safe and to help them succeed. You can do it. It's April. You've got it. Keep going. We are here to help, so please reach out. But we are incredibly grateful for the hard work you do, and we see you and we appreciate you, and we wish you a wonderful end to your 22-23 school year. Thanks all.